I like put all his stuff in a box in front of the house, and I changed the locks, and he like broke the back door down.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was so scared because he had a gun in our room, and if I was scared because he was trying to get in our room, and I was like, God, please don't let him get in this room, because I felt like he would shoot me, like, or something.
Hey guys, and welcome back. It is No Makeup Monday, which means it's time for Beauty Unveiled, which is my series where I go beyond the physical exterior and talk about what makes up a beautiful heart and soul. And as you guys know, if you're here from my last video, we do talk about some hard stuff. And today I have with me my friend Tiana, and I'm really excited to have her on. I actually asked her last week if she would be on my channel, and she said yes. And I want her to share her story because she is someone that has walked through divorce and has gone through the whole process and knows just the beginning to the end and has come full circle, and I'm so happy for her. So I'm just gonna have her share her story. I'm excited to hear it, and we're just gonna sit back and let her share what she's gone through.
This is really weird. Long story short, I was in a relationship with my high school sweetheart. We were together for 5 years. In 2011, he got in a car accident and he passed away. 5 months after he passed away, my cousin and my now ex-husband's cousin decided to put us on a blind date. And at the time, I was really not interested in dating anybody. I just went just because, I guess.
Yeah.
And when I met him, I was not interested at all. So we met, we didn't talk for like a year, and then we got back in contact with each other, and then I ended up getting saved. And when I got saved in 2012, he ended up, you know, God can remove some people that don't need to be there, and so he ended up moving up north. And so for 2 years, I didn't see him or anything, and then in 2014, he basically came back into my life, and we decided to date. This is where we first went wrong, I would say, because I believe our marriage was destined for doom before we got married. And that's because we were both very proud. We were both very prideful. And we started premarital counseling, and then we stopped because we thought we knew better, literally. And then we jumped churches. And so we went from a community that knew me, at least, to a community that didn't know either one of us.
Right.
And so we didn't have any help. We didn't have any covering or anyone who was able to be like, I don't think that's okay, or I don't know if you guys are doing it right. We had no help. Neither one of us like took any advice from our family. My dad personally told me not to marry him, and I was like, bye, like, get out of here. My dad told me not to marry him for various reasons, and I just felt like, yeah, my dad's been married for 30 years, by the way.
My parents will be 30 this year.
Yeah? I think they're more, my parents are more than 30. I just can't really count.
Yeah.
I don't really know. But I know they're like 33 years they've been married. So they've been married for 33 years. So, but for some reason, I thought I knew better. So when he told me not to marry him, I just thought, like, you don't know what you're talking about. Which was dumb on my part. And then I carried myself in such a way that nobody could really correct me, even if they wanted to. So I feel like that would just like, we set ourselves up for failure pretty much. And then we only dated for 6 months, which isn't an issue if you have community and you have people walking with you. But because we had no one, we didn't wait. And because we had no one, we really didn't have the structure of what a good marriage was or supposed to look like. And we just went into it like, I don't care. I love you. I want to be together. We really just wanted to have sex, to be honest, if I can be 100% honest.
Right.
And even though I didn't believe that at the time, I know that to be fact now because my actions were led by that, to be honest. And then we got married. So we get married and we're just so in love or whatever. And a month into our marriage, he sits me down one day and tells me, I don't think I love you. And I was like, huh? I'm so confused. I was so confused. Because, one, we never argued. Like, before we got married, we never argued. And I think at the time, you know how they say you need to be content in singleness and all that stuff? I was pretending to be content. And so I lived my life in such a way where I acted as if I was so happy being single, but I really wasn't. And so when we were courting, I would have did anything to make sure we got married. So, of course, we didn't argue because I wanted to make sure we got married. So, 1 month into our marriage, when he told me that he didn't love me anymore, for some reason it came as a surprise to me. But of course he didn't love me. He didn't know me. Like, we didn't know each other. And now that we live together, we're getting to know each other. He also had a daughter. And his daughter's mom, we didn't get along the entire time that me and him were dating. But we decided to have a mature conversation after we got married because she realized I'm married to him now. And we decided to co-parent in peace, pretty much. Right. And then we kind of built a friendship, like a little friendship. Like, she joined my book club. I braided her hair. Like, we had like a really cool relationship. We would do things together. All of us, like, we went to our church sometimes together, and any type of event we would all go together. And it wasn't really awkward either. Like, it was actually like, I was like, dang, like, it kind of pumped me up even more. Like, I know what I'm doing. Right. Like, forget whatever anyone said. I'm mastering this whole, like, wife thing, like, stepmom thing. Like, I got this. So it just pumped me up even more. So when he sat me down and told me he didn't love me, I was shocked. And I was so hurt that now that I look back at it, I was so hurt that he felt this way. I couldn't see past my hurt because now I realize he wasn't telling me that to hurt me. He was telling me that so I understood, like, what he was going through. Because he thoroughly believed this. Like, he felt like, dang, I think we made a mistake. And I couldn't walk with him through that because I was hurt. And immediately, it's almost like we became enemies overnight. I didn't handle anything. I don't want to say I didn't handle it right because I felt like I did handle it right to a certain extent. But I just couldn't really get a hold or gain control of my emotions as much as I would have liked, I would say. But that all has to do with the fact that I had no church covering. I still had no one to help me. So I remember I reached out to Olivia, and Olivia told me about her dad. And I thank God for that. Like, she told me about her dad, and she suggested we go get counseling with her dad. And we did, and it was great. Like, as far as I learned how to control my emotions more. I learned so many tools, and I was just so thankful for that season of us. Like, even though it was painful, one of the biggest things I walked away with was, like, learning how to face my fears. Yeah. Like, her dad would literally sit with me, and, like, we would do this thing where he would wait outside, and it would just be me and her dad, and then I would wait outside, and it would just be him and her dad, and then we would come in together. And when it was me and him, we would talk about my fears, because my fears was like, okay, we're going to get divorced, he's going to leave me, like, all these things. And her dad would ask me questions like, okay, so say he does leave, then what? And I would have to actually, like, walk through the process of, like, what will happen. And it took away all those fears, like, to not, like, I still felt it, and I still, like, was a little fearful of it, but it didn't paralyze me. Yeah. And after that, like, I literally use that tool to this day. Like, I will process through whatever emotions I feel and really walk through them, like, okay, so if this happens, then what? And it has helped me gain so much momentum in life because I don't stay stuck just with all those emotions. So it's just an amazing tool. And that's why I call her dad Uncle Mike. Like, that's my uncle. Self-proclaimed. I'm a part of her family. And so another thing he said, which I love him, and I wish I would have met him a lot sooner, was if he would have been our premarital counselor, he would have told us not to get married. And for good reason, because we should not have gotten married. And so fast forward, my now ex-husband, basically, he stopped bringing his daughter home. I had been in his daughter's life for, like, since she was 4. So that hurt because not only did I love this little girl, I taught her how to read. Like, I taught her, like when I met her, because she's Spanish speaking too, she struggled with her alphabet, and she struggled because she was bilingual. And so I would work with her and help her with her math and help her with her grades. And I'm naturally, like, I know I'm called to teach. So I'm naturally a teacher. So I would do devotions with her and, like, things that I know will stick with her for the rest of her life. Like I know she's going to remember, like, Tiana taught me that. Yeah. Which low-key strokes a little ego of mine. Like, I know she's probably like, Mom or Dad, remember when Tiana? But anyways. And so I was really close with her. And so when he stopped bringing her home, the way I handled it was, I was like, I can't think about her. Yeah. Like, that would have probably sent me over. So anytime I thought about her, I would just put it out of my mind, like, nope, we're not going to think about her. Mm-hmm. And, like, we had a house, like, she had a room. We had a 3-bedroom house. I had an office, our room, and her room. And I decorated this girl's room. So I wouldn't even go in there. I was just like, I can't do that. Because he stopped bringing her home. And so on the weekends, instead of him bringing her home, he would just disappear. He would just go wherever she was, which meant he was at her mother's house, basically. Or his grandmother's house, whichever. Doesn't matter. He wasn't home. He stopped bringing her home, and we still never argued. The only time we argued is if we talked about our relationship. Other than that, we were pretty calm and I would say compatible in the sense that we could get along. It was just whenever we discussed our relationship, it would go south. And we would argue, and he would literally tell me he didn't love me, and he would sleep in her room, in his daughter's room. And then in the middle of the night, he would come in our room, and he would have sex with me. And, like, he would have sex with me, but afterwards, he could tell I felt like how I felt so horrible. Like, I felt like I was being taken advantage of, and I didn't really know how to handle it. And so he would leave, and I don't really think he would do it maliciously, like, oh, I'm having sex with her, now let me leave. I truly believe now that I'm not, like, in my feelings about it, like, he would feel some type of conviction or feel like, dang, she really is hurt right now, and he just didn't know how to handle it, and so he would go back in the room, which would make it worse. Yeah. Of course. But, like, there was really no way to fix it. So he would leave, and then I would, like I said, it made me feel even worse. And then I would go to the few leaders that I did know of from, like, my old church that I, considered family, or not family, but, like, that I had a relationship with, and I would talk to them about it. And they basically told me I couldn't leave. Like, I couldn't do anything about it. Yeah, and that's what really kept me in bondage, I feel, because they felt as though, like, because he wasn't abusing me, like, physically, and he wasn't technically cheating on me, like, there was no proof, then biblically I couldn't leave. Which, according to the Bible, one of the ways out of a marriage would be because of adultery. However, he was emotionally abusing me. Like, that's abuse. And I know some people struggle with that idea and feeling like, well, they were right. I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe God wants you in any type of abusive relationship, whether it's verbal, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional. And he was emotionally abusing me. And granted, I don't think that was his intention, but I definitely think that he came from a long line of abuse in ways, and that's all he really knew. And so he was emotionally abusing me, and then he wasn't working, so I was taking care of him. And so imagine being in my shoes, your husband telling you he doesn't love you, and yet you have to feed him and give him gas, and then on top of it, he's not even coming home on the weekends. He would leave me at home, and we lived in a nice area. However, we lived at the end of a cul-de-sac, and there was kind of like an alley right next to our house, and a whole bunch of random cars would come and park on the street in front of our house, and people would smoke or whatever they would do. So it was kind of a little sketchy. And he left me at home on weekends with a dog that didn't bark and a gun. I could not work by myself, and we didn't have like an alarm system or anything. Yeah. So I didn't feel safe, and at this point, he didn't care for his own reasons. And so my brother Michael, which I'm so thankful for, he had just gotten saved, and at this point, I was pretty much the only one in my family saved, and so he reached out to me, and so I would kind of help walk him through his beginning stages of salvation, and he decided to come over on the weekend. So he would come over every weekend, and he would do all of the stuff my ex-husband was not doing. Wow. And I'm so thankful for him. So he would take care of the dogs, he would take care of the lawn, like the grass and stuff. He would help around the house, and I was so thankful for him because I was so embarrassed. I didn't want my family to know anything, and he didn't tell them a word. Like, he never told them anything. I feel like I'm gonna cry because I'm so thankful for him. Like, it really helped me. Like, all my life I've struggled with rejection, and I've struggled with, like, feeling like my family really loved me. And I don't know where it stems from because, like, my family loves me. It was just my own issues, and that really helped instill a trust in, like, wow, my family, like, someone in my family cares. And I'm naturally independent and strong, and I've prided myself on that, but I was so weak in this moment. I needed help, and he helped me, and he didn't say a word. Like, he didn't ask for nothing in return. He put up with my attitude because when you're grieving, sometimes you can flash on people, and he put up with all of it, and he really loved me through that, and I'm forever, like, thankful for him. even though he still gets on my nerves. But I'm forever thankful for him because, like, in that time of need, he was there for me. And I had, when I had no one. Like, if he had money, he would help. Like, and I was paying for a 3-bedroom house in Rancho Cucamonga. I don't know if anybody knows how expensive that can be.
Yeah.
Off my salary alone, literally. And so, my brother helped me through that season. So then I decided to stop asking people for help and I started praying. I was out of shape and I started exercising. I started going to like a boot camp. And so I would get up at 5 a.m. I would go to this boot camp and then I would come back home and I would sit and I would pray and I would read and
I remember that.
Girl.
I was so proud of you.
I was like not playing. Like I lost 20 pounds. Healthy too. Like healthy. And I was spending so much time with God and God was communicating with me on such another level. Like it blew my mind. I remember it was around my stepdaughter's birthday and he sat me down and he told me for her birthday we're gonna go on a trip to San Diego and it's gonna be me, my entire family, and then her mother, and I don't want you to go. Like this is what he told me. And I was like flabbergasted. And granted he already wasn't bringing his daughter home, but I was just like, I was more so concerned with how it looked. I was like, do you not understand how bad that looks? Yeah. I'm your wife. You don't want your wife to go with your like family on a family trip, but you want your daughter's mom to go. Like, I was so blown away, and I felt like there was nothing I could do about it. When I tell you this man, I was working and I worked from home, and I got off of work and he was nowhere to be found. Like, he left like early. Like he made sure there was no coming in communication, like in contact with me that day because he knew what he was doing. And I felt like I was calm and I was fine when he left, even though I knew where they were and I had questions, but I was really good at putting it out of my mind. Like I was just like, if I think about it, I'm gonna break down. So I was on social media. Oh no, I wasn't on social media. I purposely was like, Tiana, you know better. Don't do this to yourself. Yeah. So I got off of social media. And I was like, this is the only way I know you cannot break down. If you don't see anything, you're fine. And so my best friend at the time came over and she was sitting with me and she like showed me some picture of Kylie Jenner, beautiful self. Mm-hmm. And she was like, oh my God, look at Kylie Jenner. And I looked at the picture and I naturally scrolled because, and the very next photo was like a picture from my ex-husband on this trip to San Diego. And immediately like my heart like it was definitely like just crazy how it happened because it was like literally the next photo and I was like, oh my gosh. And it was just him and his daughter. And then I started lurking. Like I couldn't even control it. And so I went on his daughter's mother's social media and I see like she's putting up pictures of him. Wow. And that really that got me. And I was so hurt. I just started bawling. I started crying. And my best friend at the time left. And I remember that night I was praying because I was like, God, I don't want to feel the way that I feel. Because I started to feel like hurt and like hate. And like, like what you naturally would feel if you feel wronged. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't want to feel that way. Because I don't think I could function in that. Like in me thoroughly like hating somebody. I was just like, I can't. And I prayed. And I went to bed. And I had all these questions, like, where did they sleep? What, like one of the videos that I saw was like, it looked like they were in the same room and they stayed up till midnight to sing happy birthday to her daughter, to their daughter. And I was just like, they're in the same room and it's like midnight. And I was so like lost. And I remember I went to bed and I had a dream. And in my dream, I was able to approach the daughter's mom and ask her every single question that I had in real life. Wow. God is so good, let me tell you. So I asked her every single question that I had in real life, and she answered them. And when I woke up, I had such a peace over me. I believed God was answering my prayer. Like he was answering all of those questions in that dream, to where when I woke up, I felt fine. Like I knew they didn't sleep together. I knew I believed everything, and I was just like, and regardless of whether or not it was true, I found peace. Right. So I was just like, wow. Like, it just blew my mind when it came to, how much God loved me because I needed that peace or I would have went to jail. I really needed that peace. And so I was fine. And I remember God told me just to, chill out. So I chilled out. And I remember he came home and he was so on, like, I feel like he was so scared because I just wasn't, like, I wasn't asking him no questions. I wasn't going off on him. I was nice to him. And he was probably like, this girl is going to poison my food or something. And it just gave me the peace that I needed, and I was so thankful. So long story short, on the nights that he wouldn't come home, it had like a traumatic effect to me. Like, I couldn't really sleep. And I think you probably have experienced it. Like, if someone you know lives with you isn't home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It's hard.
It's really hard to sleep, especially if it's your spouse.
Yeah.
So I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would, like, throw tantrums. Like, I don't know if you've ever experienced, you probably, because you have kids, so I don't know if you can. I would literally be throwing tantrums in my bed, crying, like, why is this happening to me? I was suicidal. I remember I had a whole bunch of, like, I took all the pills out the medicine cabinet, and I set it next to the bed, and I just sat there, and I got a glass of water, and I sat there, and I just looked at it. And I thought about, like, I ran through all the consequences of my actions. Like, if I take all of these, like, what's going to happen? And I think I had about 3 encounters of really feeling suicidal. And each and every time, someone decided to FaceTime me. And it wasn't even like a phone call. It was like a FaceTime. Like,
wow.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
And I would answer, and I would be honest. And then someone recommended I go to therapy, and I decided to go. And that helped. That helped me tremendously because I was definitely suicidal. And I had never been suicidal in my life, so it really scared me. Like, because I had never contemplated killing myself. So for me, out of my 25 at that point years of my life, to be in a place where I'm contemplating killing myself, it scared me and it embarrassed me. So I didn't want to reach out to anybody about it because I was like, I'm stronger than this. Like, it was just such a confusing time. So I went to therapy, learned about the practical, ways to really work through my emotions, and this is where I plug in therapy and how important therapy is. Yeah. And I know, especially within the Black community, it can be taboo because we like to say, therapy is for crazy white people. And no, it's not. Like, it is for anyone who needs it. Because I think you have to be stronger to go to therapy because it's taboo.
Right.
And it's facing your problems. It's not running from anything, and it's not an admission of weakness. It's facing your problems head on. And so I started going to therapy for a few months, and it really helped. And so I wasn't no longer suicidal, and I was able to, like, process through my emotions. But I did like start struggling with anxiety, and and then I decided to move. I was like, I prayed about it, and I felt God tell me, yes, I can move, because that was the only way he was going to leave. Mm-hmm. Like, one time, I was super emotional, and I tried to kick him out. Mm-hmm. I, like, put all his stuff in a box in front of the house, and I changed the locks, and he, like, broke the back door down.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was so scared because he had a gun in our room, and if I was scared, because he was trying to get in our room, and I was like, God, please don't let him get in this room, because I felt like he would shoot me, like, or something. Wow. And even though he was never violent with me, that was, like, a legit fear that I had, because I was like, I done pissed him off. He kicked the back door down. Like, I was like, whoa. Yeah. But I knew he would not leave unless I didn't live there. So I moved, and then that began our separation, like, season. And this is the part I was telling you earlier. But I was so angry at God. I felt like everything was his fault. And it was very irrational of me when I think about it. And this is where I want to speak to the people who get themselves into stuff and then blame God. And when you really think about it, and if you can really step outside of your emotions, then it's pretty much just a victim mentality. I had a very victimized victim mentality. Woe is me. He hurt me. God allowed it. And God gives us free will. God didn't make me marry him. Hell, God, I don't even think God told me to marry him at this point. But yet I still felt like I had to blame him because I felt like he didn't stop it or protect me. And I don't know why I felt as though God could take away his free will when God won't even take away my free will. Right. And I wanted God to take away his free will, which is to leave that marriage and make him stay, pretty much. Yeah. And so I was angry at God, and I didn't go to church for about 4 months, and I didn't pray for about 4 months. And I ended up, I just pretty much traveled. I was just like, I love traveling. I'm just going to spend all my money on traveling. I took off of work for about 6 months because I was healing, and I just traveled. And then when I came back, I ended up at this church that I go to now, which is All Nations Worship Assembly, San Bernardino, and I love it. It literally changed my life. So if you're in California, if you're anywhere near San Bernardino or Los Angeles, like, you have to come visit our church because it's life-changing. But I visited the church, and I feel like they thoroughly loved me back to life. Like, when I showed up there, I was broken. I felt unloved. I felt unlovable. I felt unwanted, and I felt like an orphan. I felt like I didn't have anybody, and no one understood me. And I felt like that was just how life was supposed to be for me. I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't see what people spoke about this full circle, like, oh, it'll get better. People would say, oh, it'll get better. And I also didn't know anyone else who had went through a divorce.
Yeah.
And it was so extremely hard to find anyone. I couldn't find any books, really, pretty much. Because at the time I was separated, I wasn't divorced. I only found one book on separation. And I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to handle myself. And that was the most out of control that I ever felt with life. So I go to this church, and the day I realized, I go to this church. Me and my ex-husband, out of nowhere, he kind of like, we went through this time where he would act as though we would get back together, and then if I did something to make him mad, he would dangle divorce over my head. Wow. And it was the most manipulative thing I'd ever experienced, and it was so hurtful, and I felt so confused, and I didn't know how to handle it. And it wasn't until I basically found out that he had cheated on me with his daughter's mom. And she was the one who told me.
Wow.
And she told me, and of course she was just very disrespectful, and she was talking real reckless. And it was his daughter's birthday, and I was actually, I went to the courthouse because I was like, I'm going to sign all the papers, because he actually filed for divorce. Because he was doing it to threaten me. He was trying to hold it over my head, but yet he would not proceed with any of the paperwork. He just did the first step and then would dangle it over my head. He wouldn't do nothing else, and it stressed me out. So I go to the courthouse, I do what I'm supposed to do, and I get this random idea in my head. I'm like, I'm going to go fight his daughter's mom on his daughter's birthday. Like, I'm freaking psycho. And so I was like, I'm about to go fight her. And so my church that I go to, our old building just happened to be right outside the courthouse, like right next door to the courthouse. Wow. So I left the courthouse, and I was arguing with him because I was letting them know, like, hey, I'm coming, like, and I was coming by myself. I was really crazy because, like, obviously it's her birthday party. There's a lot of people there.
Yeah. And
I didn't care who was there. I was gonna go and fight. I was gonna probably run somebody over. Like, that's thoroughly like how I felt, which is really, really scary. But that's where I was in that season. And so I left the courthouse, and I pulled into the parking lot of my church, and I didn't see any cars, so I was like, no one's here. So I pulled into the parking lot, and he calls me, and he's like begging me not to come, and I'm like screaming. I'm unchurched, super unchurched at this time, so I was like cussing. I was mad, like I was so angry, and I'm screaming and I'm cussing. I'm like, no, I'm coming, and y'all better be ready. And then, I was just extra. And I get a knock on my window, and I look out the window like, who is it? And it's one of my pastors.
Wow.
Pastor Tiana. I love her. Like, if you ever meet her, you're going to love her too. She's the best. So she knocks on my window. She's like, come talk to me. She's like, come talk to me for a second. So I go in the church with her, and she sits me down. And I tell her everything that's going on. And she's like, she's one of the greatest listeners I've ever met, and she's one of the greatest, like, communicators. Like, she's just really good at communicating. So I tell her what's happening, and she goes, okay. She goes, well, now she sensed and she understood, like, my biggest struggle was that I felt I was carrying the guilt and shame of divorce. Like, I felt trapped. I felt like I couldn't divorce him without carrying, like, the stigmatism of divorce over me. Like, what will everyone think? Like, what is everyone going to say? People are, like, I was just so burdened by it. And she looks at me and she goes, you have two options. She goes, because of his actions, you now have two options. You can either stay and God will honor that, or you can leave and God will honor that. But whatever you decide, God will honor it. And after she said it, I felt such a weight lift off of me, because it was the first time in my life I realized, you can be free. Like, you can be healed of this. You don't have to be in this marriage. You don't have to be in this toxic relationship. You don't even have to talk to them. Like, you don't have to be so engaged with this hurt. And you don't have to carry the judgment and the guilt from it. And so I texted him and I was like, I'm not coming. Like, whatever, live your life. Happy birthday. And I sat there with her and I cried in her arms, and she just like loved on me, and I was able to proceed. And it took a while because he really was playing with the divorce papers, but I was able to proceed with the actual divorce in peace. And that was the first time I felt peace regarding the entire situation, and I was no longer afraid to talk about it or ashamed to talk about it, but I felt peace. And so we got divorced January, officially on paper, January 2016. And that's when I like blocked him on everything, because I was like, now we have nothing to talk about.
Right.
Thank God we had no kids. No problem. So I was thankful we didn't have any children, because I don't know what I would have done, like, at all. And another reason I was thankful is because he already had a kid with someone else. So I felt like I'd be not only trapped with him, but I'd be trapped with her as well. And I was just like, no. Yeah. So I was like, okay, like, you can move forward. And it took some time, but what really, I feel like, really helped me deal with the hurt and pain and everything, and just process through everything, was the fact that I had a community rallying behind me with the proper tools, and just with the time to love me and to really help me process through all of my hurt and pain. And so fast forward, it's been like 2.5 years since I've gotten divorced. And I'm now engaged. Yeah. And I forgot my ring. So I just got engaged 5 days ago. And I definitely forgot my ring, because I'm not used to wearing it. And so it's the most beautiful ring ever. And I'm going to be getting married, which blows my mind, because I was so against getting married again because of how hurt I was. I told myself I wasn't going to date nobody for 5 years.
I remember you posting that on Facebook.
I was serious.
Yeah.
And my now fiance, his name is Tony. I love him so much. And we're going to start a vlog channel together.
Aww.
Because I love him so much. Oh my God, I love him so much.
And he loves her. I haven't even met him yet, but I can just tell. As soon as you guys even started dating, I was like, oh, he loves her. You can just see it.
I love him so much. Like, he's literally like we call each other best friend. And we argue, and we like, you know what's crazy? We argue and stuff. And when we first started arguing, I didn't know how to handle it, and I would want to run. And I remember I was talking to God about it, because I was like, oh, it's so frustrating. I never used to argue with my ex. And that's one thing you don't want to do, is compare. Mm-hmm. And God said, that's why you're divorced. Because we never had to process through anything. Yeah. So what I love about this man is the fact that, like, when we argue, we get to the bottom of it. And I've realized I'm now the runner. And so when we argue, I'll be like, I don't want to talk to you. And he'll be like, babe, yes, like talk to me. Or he'll give me some time, because he knows, like, I can be a little reckless when I talk if I'm really upset. So he'll let me, like, breathe. But he'll make sure we talk about it. Yeah. And I'm so thankful for him. And he's just, like, he's such a man. Like, I'm so in love with this man. It's crazy. And him and my best friend, like, they just came up with this elaborate scheme to propose to me, to where I thought I was planning a party for her for like a month. Oh. That's how all that happened. I thought I was planning a graduation party for Tiana. Wow. Yeah, so Olivia's going to insert some footage, because let me tell you, this was the greatest, the most romantic proposal I've ever seen in my life, and it happens to be mine.
Because I've waited 7 years before fully committing to pursue the wife that God said I would find. And now that I found you, I wait with great expectation just to see if you will finally be the wife that I can call mine. This is my notebook. This is my love story. And this will be my favorite movie to watch for the rest of my days. But in the midst of it all, I will stop just to give God praise. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. And I will rewind just to see how good God has been always. Yes, God, let your goodness continue to flow through our relationship as we continue to press forward and as I continue to press play. Babe, even when I'm in my lowest lane, being with you makes me feel like I'm Superman again, with nothing to lose and everything to gain. Because I know that being with you, I can create, I can build, and I can fulfill purpose with you by my side. So in front of all the people we love, before God and all of heaven to see, there's one question that I've been waiting to ask you way before I've ever even known you. Tiana, Janine, Dawson, will you marry me?
And I was so shocked, and I was surrounded by people who loved me. I was surrounded by my pastors. I was surrounded by my friends. I was surrounded by my family, and I was bawling the entire time. I was just like when I tell you, ugly Kim K crying the entire time. But he just pulled off this romance. He really loves me, and I know he does. And I just realized, even just after the engagement, God does not lie.
Yeah.
When everything, I remember after I divorced, I was walking around my house and I was praying. And I remember I was just reading the book of Esther and how, what was the king's name? I forget his name. But how the king, wanted his wife at the time, Vashti, to strip for him, basically, and in front of his guests. And he never asked of such a thing from Esther.
Right.
Never. Because he honored her. And God told me, your husband will honor you.
Wow.
I remember God being like, your next husband will honor you. And this man honors, the dirt I walk on. I'm the disrespectful one. This man honors me. He respects me. He loves me. And he makes his so unbelievably clear, his love for me and his intentions for me. And I had never been with anyone who intentionally pursued me. My ex-husband, I feel like I led the relationship. I basically did everything. I was like, hey, I think we should date.
Yeah.
I did all of it. And I was just so deceived. But this man intentionally pursued me. I'm going to share on my channel our whole journey pretty much, and our engagement video once it comes out. But long story short, I got divorced in 2016. It's 2018. I'm now engaged. I wish I had my ring. He did really good with this ring, and I almost feel I just feel like God kept his promise to me.
Yeah.
And no matter what I did to derail it, because I knew I was called to be someone's wife. I knew I was made to be someone's wife. And I know I'm made to be someone's mother. And for a while there, I lost hope and didn't think that it would happen. And I settled. But I settled because I was trying to force God's hand. And even in me trying to force his hand and then feeling like I destroyed the promise that God gave me, God still gave me the promise. He redeemed the time. He brought me someone that genuinely loves God and loves me. And the reason he can love me so much is because he loves God so much.
Yeah.
And that's me on the other side of divorce.
Right.
And I'm not bitter. I'm not resentful. And I do want to say, about my ex-husband, that's why I tried to, be clear in what I believe his intentions were, because at the end of the day, you can't know anyone's intentions. Right. All you can see is the action and go based off of that. But I don't hate him. If anything, I'm so thankful for him, because if I never would have went through that, I would have never looked at my now fiance. Because, one, I wasn't attracted to him, and not that he's ugly. He's absolutely handsome. He just wasn't my type.
Right.
And he wasn't my type, and or what I considered my type, because I was prideful and I thought I had this look of marriage. And I don't think I would have been as open to him as I am now. And I wouldn't be who I am today. And I wouldn't, I completely forgot that I built a business from the ground up.
Oh yeah.
I completely forgot.
I was she has walking through that, you started so many amazing things.
Yeah, so
you didn't just stop life.
I didn't. I couldn't. I wouldn't have lived. I remember before we got separated, I prayed and I said, God, I need something to take my mind off this marriage. And I decided to become a photographer. And from the minute I picked up that camera, my journey began in such a way. I've been featured in a couple magazines. I've worked with celebrities now. It just took a giant leap that I didn't expect it to take. And it was all because I just trusted God. I bought a camera. And I trusted that I knew this was what God was going to, you know, bless if I took it serious. And I did. And now I've been a business owner for 3 years.
Yeah.
And my business is amazing. Like, it's literally doing so great. And, like, last year I made more money than I ever made in my life.
Wow.
And then I moved to this, like, high-rise condo in LA, and I only lasted 5 months. I missed my family so much, which is another testimony of, like, how God is a restorer, because I never thought I could be so close to my family. Right. And I missed them so much, I moved home. I missed my community so much. I just knew I couldn't live that far away. And it's only, like, an hour and a half. I was like, I can't do it. Now I'm 10 minutes from my family. But I'm thankful that I'm back. And I'm just thankful for God, because he's taught me in all of this how to build a business, how to build people, or know how to build my bank account basically, and how to build people, and how to build myself, and see that I'm, you know, more than just called to be someone's wife, and more than just called to be someone's mother, but I'm called to, like, encourage other women. And I take it as my personal duty to, like, stop women from running to the altar.
Yeah.
Prematurely.
Right.
I'm making my personal duty, because now that I see, like, everything I went through could have been prevented if I was humble. But because I wasn't humble, and because I thought I knew everything, and because I wanted I wanted a ring so bad. Like, I could have gone and bought myself a little ring and been fine. Like, yeah. But I wanted a ring so bad that I forced God's hand. God gave me my promise. And I just want to encourage you guys, like, wherever stage you're in, even if you're not.
Yeah, this is amazing. Even if you're single, or you've just gotten married, or you're walking through hard times, I think your story, it's amazing.
I feel like it's for everyone. If you're single and you want to be married, it's one of those things where you really want to count the cost of what it is that you want. And then, like, you just don't want to rush. You don't want to rush down the aisle to marry someone, especially someone you don't really know. And you just want to make sure, like, I get that you're grown. I get that you want to live your life how you want to live your life. But even Jesus himself had authority over him. And he knew that he came under the authority of God. Yeah. What makes you think you shouldn't have authority over you?
Right. I'm so grateful. This was really healing for me too, because like I shared, I mean, the video I shared last week, this was just the beginning of this journey for me, for us. And divorce, it's different for everybody. And sometimes God restores, and then sometimes you have to walk it out, and you do have to face the fact that this is coming to an end. And I just wanted, for not only for you guys to hear somebody who's come full circle, but just for myself to see that you can restart your life, and it can be more beautiful than you ever thought possible, with a man who loves you so much, who gave you the best proposal of your life, and to be excited about the future. Yeah. And not only that, but to be healed from the memories of the past, that you don't even carry the bitterness, and that you don't feel that pain anymore, that you can be healed from the pain, and you can be healed from the hurt. Okay, so my camera keeps cutting me off, so I think we've ran our course.
We've been talking for quite some time.
Thank you so much for being on my channel. And I will have all of her information listed down below. So your channel, her social media. She's a bomb photographer, so if you need, I don't know, do you like travel for?
I do travel if y'all willing to pay.
Yeah.
Listen.
She's amazing. So I will have everything, wherever you need to find her, I'll
link it below.
Yeah, link it below. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you
and
for having me.
I really hope that those of you who are going through this found some healing in hearing her story. And I will see you guys back here next week. Thank you for watching. Bye.
I love you.
I love you. This will be our thumbnail.